As far as Malik Benson, dynamic playmaker. It's 6 foot, I think like 185 pounds, can really create after the catch, but he's also an elite vertical threat. He's got really long arms. He's got big hands. And, he's great. He's way better in contested catch situations than you would think for a guy who's only 6 foot, 185 pounds. And so I think he's one of the premier playmakers, offensive playmakers in this recruiting class, whether you're talking about transfer portal, high school, or JUCO level. And I can't even begin to state how important this addition was for Alabama's offense, because they were lacking explosive playmakers or explosive plays, at least, for the entirety of the season. And that's exactly what this guy's going to bring to the table.
And that's what I agree with you, Clint. When we look at Alabama's wide receiver room and from this past and guys are returning, we can talk about a couple of other names before we move on to our next segment. But I just felt that Alabama couldn't really blow the top off like they could in years past. I mean, you look at some of these highlights right here. The first thing that screams out about Malik Benson is his acceleration and what he can do after the catch. You need somebody that can not only beat a receiver right here in man coverage, but blow the top off. And I felt that only one wide receiver was able to do that. And he was only a freshman. That was Isaiah Bond, right? We never really got to see too much from Aaron Anderson. And it's unfortunate that he left the wide receiver room. But when you look to guys who can really blow the top off, I felt like it was only Isaiah Bond that could really do that as a freshman. And, he just didn't get a lot of reps because there's guys ahead of him. Now, when we look to guys that are returning, Jermaine Burton or Ja'Cory Brooks, I think those guys are solidified as good wide receivers, but I don't feel that either. And this is no disrespect to those guys. They just don't have that NFL type speed that I think we're used to from the Jerry Judys, the Henry Ruggs, the Jalen Waddles, and et cetera. So I think that Malik Benson certainly has that extra gear that Alabama has needed, and I think will help the wide receivers. Let's talk about this wide receiver room before we move on. You got Ja'Cory Brooks coming back, probably someone who started to really emerge as one of the top targets towards the back end of the season. Give me your take on some of the wide receivers that are returning: Ja'Cory Brooks, Jermaine Burton.
Yeah, I think that, I don't think Ja'Cory Brooks or Jermaine Burton are necessarily wide receiver ones. I think they're both good wide receiver twos. That's where I think that there's an opportunity for a guy like Malik Benson to come in and really become the premier pass catcher in Alabama's offense. And then if that happens and he's, commanding all this attention from opposing defenses, that creates a lot more for your number 2 and number 3s. And in those instances, it would probably be Burton and it would be Brooks. And you're also going to have Prentice. You're going to have Isaiah Bond. You're going to have Kendrick Law. Like I said, Alabama's not short on wide receiver talent at all. Yep. But with Brooks, I think his fit in Alabama's offense is interesting because you don't really see a whole lot of opportunities. Like Bryce Young wasn't the style of quarterback where he's going to throw it up to a covered wide receiver and let him go up and win 50-50 balls. He would like to see guys create separation through route running and win vertically before he throws it to him. And that's just really not Ja'Cory Brooks' game. I mean, he's got good speed, not saying that he's not a fast receiver. That's just not really how he wins, but he's actually very effective when he is given the opportunity in contested catch situations. And I would like to see a little bit more of that from whoever ends up being Alabama's starting quarterback. With Jermaine Burton, I agree with you. You look at him and you kind of wonder. Sometimes I went back and watched tape, and I was like, wait a minute, how was this cat as open as he was downfield? And we do know that Bryce Young's arm was limiting the offense as far as their ability to stretch the field and push defenses or press defenses vertically. But Jermaine Burton won fairly consistently deep. So while I don't think he's an elite, he doesn't have the elite vertical speed, I think he's got really good speed. And I think he can win vertically, but you would want a Malik Benson or an Isaiah Bond being your premier guy, your Jameson Williams style of player.
Yeah, and I like the fact Chris, our producer in the background, has Kobe Prentice. I mean, what a season that Prentice had, right? I mean, that guy was completely reliable. He stood up when he had to. A lot of ability with Kobe Prentice. Can't wait to see what he can do in 2023. Hey, what's good, fam? It's Kyle Henderson. Thank you very much for watching this video. Check out our other related content right here on Bama Insider. Be sure and like and subscribe, inching closer to 100,000 subscribers right here on Bama Insider.